Whether you think it's a good thing or not, Disney and Lucasfilm have really been actively pushing a feminist or pro-female agenda in Star Wars. I believe this is due to the current president of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy.
We are trying to grow in the workforce a number of women in executive positions and in all positions inside the company, and with the movies that we're making and with the protagonists that we're putting in the stories. So I get a huge amount of support with that. But we have 50% of our executive team are women. Mm-hmm. And 6 out of 8 of the people in my story group are women. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that would be surprised that we're making Star Wars movies and the majority of the people involved in the development of those stories are women. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's making a huge difference in the stories that we're trying to tell.
She is not only working on getting more female employees working at Lucasfilm, but featuring more female Star Wars characters. You can see this with the female characters being portrayed in the new movies. You can see it in the Forces of Destiny web series, which may feature some of the ugliest animation I've ever seen. And there's even a book being released later this year, Women of the Galaxy, which celebrates the female characters from the new canon, including artwork from 18 female and non-binary artists. I could see this all as being admirable if previously Star Wars or the expanded universe was written and made by only men and featuring only male characters. So highlighting female Star Wars characters and encouraging the hiring of new female employees would be a positive and necessary change. Unfortunately for Kathleen Kennedy and the new guard, the Star Wars galaxy has had many strong female characters for decades now, and Lucasfilm has had many female employees, from writers and artists to executive editors. So not only is this posturing sort of pointless, it's also ignoring the female characters of the EU and the female writers and artists who worked on it, which is ironically the exact opposite of what projects like these set out to do. If I considered myself a feminist, I would really feel like Lucasfilm was trying to talk down to me. Instead of making great characters who have rich, memorable storylines, irrespective of gender, they are promoting the idea of female empowerment to seem progressive, but are actually ignoring the character themselves, as well as their storyline. For example, when The Force Awakens was coming out, there were all these articles that were saying about Captain Phasma, finally, the first female villain in Star Wars. Then when the movie came out, she was a huge disappointment to everyone, and was really only made to be killed off. Her only claim of importance was being the first female Star Wars villain, so that's at least a little cool. Except it's not true, because there have been many more and far better Star Wars female villains in the EU. As far back as the 80s, you had Lumaya, Sith apprentice to Darth Vader, who bested a post-Return of the Jedi Luke when they fought for the first time, who then planned to use an extragalactic race called the Nagai to crush the Rebel Alliance shortly after their victory on Endor. In Knights of the Old Republic 2, you had Darth Traya, whose motivations you learn about through the entire game, in addition to her unique perspective on the Force, which I haven't seen from a Star Wars character since, make her very compelling. Asaina Sard, the director of Imperial Intelligence, pretty much became the ruler of the Empire after Palpatine died. Her rise to power and more esoteric strategies made her as dangerous as Thrawn. Admiral Dala actually faced gender discrimination in the Empire, but was able to be noticed by Tarkin for her skills. Later she put an end to the Imperial warlords who kept squabbling over control, and reunified the Empire. I could go on to name dozens of other Star Wars female villains that are interesting for many other reasons than their gender. That might be the problem with the way the new canon deals with women, by highlighting their gender first and putting their character motivation second. With Force Awakens, I have no doubt in my mind that J.J. Abrams wanted to make a strong female role model with Rey, but since that was what they were trying to focus on first and foremost, they got a positive female character that is multi-talented, super powerful in the Force, and doesn't face adversity, so therefore can't grow as a character. That's not an interesting character to watch or read about, because if they're already good at everything, then that's boring. They have no arc. That's why she gets criticized as a Mary Sue all the time. Compare that to a female protagonist from the EU, like Mara Jade in the Thrawn trilogy. She was raised by the Emperor as one of his assassins since her childhood. Since she had trained and was sent on multiple missions, she was incredibly talented in what she could do. When the Emperor died, he gave Mara his last command: she must kill Luke Skywalker. So she took jobs as a smuggler until she finally met Luke. But when they crashed on a dangerous planet, they were forced to work together, even though she still planned on killing him. Mara is a very interesting character in those books, because there's an explanation for why she is so skilled. She has a motive, and she still faces tons of adversity. That's why she's so great to read about, and even though she was introduced in a book 25 years ago, fans fell in love with her, and she still has several fans to this day. Like the female villains, there are just as many, if not more, interesting female protagonists in the EU that don't get anywhere close to the publicity of the female characters that Disney and Lucasfilm are promoting with the new movies. But what about women working at Lucasfilm? Surely Kathleen Kennedy broke the glass ceiling by hiring female employees, because it's not like there were any before, right? Well, not really the case. There were a ton of women working at Lucasfilm and on the EU who I have a great deal of respect for contributing to the Star Wars galaxy. A.C. Crispin wrote the Han Solo trilogy, which I highly recommend if you're interested in Han Solo's origin. Karen Traviss wrote the Republic Commando novels, which skyrocketed the popularity of the Mandalorians among the fan base. Jane Dorsema is probably my favorite comic book artist of all time, and the publishers at Dark Horse must have agreed with me, because she illustrated several Star Wars comic books like Republic, Legacy, and Dawn of the Jedi. Judy Blundell, pseudonym Jude Watson, wrote several series of young adult novels where for the first time we really got to see the relationship between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and between Obi-Wan and Anakin, with her Jedi Apprentice and Jedi Quest series. And of course, there's Shannon McRandall, who modeled as the one and only Mara Jade, putting a real face on a beloved Star Wars character. As with the Star Wars female characters, I could keep going on and on listing these fantastic women who helped shape the EU. Without their contributions, it wouldn't nearly be as wonderful as it is now. And to say that Lucasfilm needs to hire more women based on their gender really negates the contributions of these women who have made Star Wars great with their talent alone. Finally, there is another reason that I think feminists should support Legends. If you really want a female-led story, written by a talented female author, then the Sword of the Jedi trilogy is what you're looking for. It would have starred Jedi Master Jaina Solo, and would have been written by Christy Golden. Unfortunately, it was cancelled by Disney and Lucasfilm when they decided to reboot the Star Wars canon. Literally a whole entire trilogy of novels, starring a well-developed and very powerful female Jedi Master, written by a talented female author who has written Jaina Solo before, and written her in an era that Christie is familiar with, got cancelled by Kathleen Kennedy. If Kathleen really wants to show off a well-written female character who knows how to kick butt, while at the same time hiring a female author to do so, then release the Sword of the Jedi trilogy. These books are probably the most highly sought-after series by EU fans, because it was dangled in front of our faces before it was cruelly ripped away. Also, we love Jaina Solo, so much so that the EU fans banded together for Hasbro's 2016 Black Series fan poll to get her made into an action figure. Then she got popular enough at one point to be the best-selling toy on Amazon.com. If a non-canon character is that popular as a toy, imagine how good a book series about her would be. Kathleen Kennedy has stated that she doesn't owe the male fans of Star Wars anything, but there are many EU fans, both men and women, boys and girls, who don't care about gender. We just love good characters, and Lucasfilm has had hundreds of them before they canceled their stories. That is why, no matter what gender you are, if you love Star Wars and great written characters, then I think Legends is for you.